Twitch has accepted the stream. YouTube has accepted the stream. Facebook has accepted the stream. I'm now waiting for Facebook to give me the link so I can put it on your page. Copy link, there it is. Okay, now I got to put it on your page, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The way you have your page set up, nobody can put it on your page except you.
No, this is Virginia Ginger Kerwin McIntyre.
Yeah.
You put it on my page every month.
Well, I don't see where. You're welcome to come over here and show me where I would put it.
Okay, keep going. That's the.
Okay, go down.
Go down a little bit. Huh.
They must have switched things around on you.
They must have. Okay, so we'll just go to Think Twice Radio and just have it on there then, I guess. I'll just have to share it from there.
Okay, and I'll send you the link on Messenger so that you can...
Yeah, it's not showing how to do that. It might also be because you're coming in from a page.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're coming in from a page and not your personal page,
Yeah.
it won't let you post.
That could be it. You know, that's an interesting idea. Let me try that.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. I found that out myself. When I try to post from my page, Reverend Virginia McIntyre, I can't post on certain places.
You might be right. Yeah, I bet you that's it. All right, here we are, coming in from a different page here. Yeah, you're right.
What do you know?
Boy, you know a lot about a lot of things.
I don't know about that. I had to learn it the hard way. I was getting frustrated and everything else with Facebook, and then I realized that a page can't post to a personal page.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. Theresa, do you want the link?
Oh, definitely.
How do you want it? Through Facebook Messenger, or should I text it to you? Or?
Facebook Messenger would work.
All right, let's see if I can find you on Facebook Messenger.
Have to spell it with 2 S's.
Okay, so your first name is?
Theressa.
Theressa. Beautiful name. And your last name?
Johnson.
You know there's someone with your name in reverse.
Really?
Yeah, okay. So there it is. Is it Caressajason?
Oh, no. No, it's
No, it's not?
Theressa.
Okay.
Theresa.
Let's see here. It says no results found.
No.
So what I'll do you have a text number?
Yeah.
Okay, let's send it to your text number. Okay, send new message.
716
Okay. Yeah.
481
481
2799.
2799?
Yes.
2799. Okay. And I'll just put down, here is the link.
Thank you.
And sending it, and sent.
Thank you. And I just received it.
Congratulations on the Sennheisers, Richard, and good luck. I hope sincerely those work out for you.
We got a message from Richard on your phone. It's coming through our headset.
I was wondering if you could hear that.
We can hear.
You can.
Yes, we can. We can hear it.
So, are you both ready to go on the air?
Yeah, we're ready.
Yep.
Okay. Look at the timer that's on the screen, and when the timer says on the air, you're on the air, okay?
Okay, 4 seconds. Good evening. We're on the air. I'm Virginia McIntyre, and this is Illuminating Forward, the podcast. And I have a great guest tonight, but I'm not going to introduce her as of yet. First, I want to talk about what the show is about, so everybody's clear and on the same page. So my question to the audience, but first I want to tell you that we're on Think Twice Radio, Home of the Future, with the great Richard Wicca, and we are very thankful that he has this great radio station that we can do our podcast on. So my question to the audience is, and I have notes, because I tend to go down rabbit holes.
Are you a Gemini?
No, I'm an Aries. So I have notes. So my question to the audience is, are you feeling overwhelmed in the turmoil and the chaos of the world around you? Because tonight's show, we're going to explore what it means to operate from the heart and to stay spiritually, mentally, and emotionally grounded. And my guest, I don't want to say who it is yet because you're all going to love her, and you all love her anyway. We're going to explore those topics, and I will be relying on several experts in the field, including myself and my guest, but also we're going to talk about some research that will help us. And I want to use the knowledge and expertise of not only myself and my guests, but the area of because I was a former counselor and my guest has worked in the health field. And we have used mindfulness and meditation and visualization for a long time, and I did it across the country for decades. But I also want to acknowledge Colleen van der Zijden, who's a medium and intuitive life coach from Lilydale, New York, and her husband, who's a mental health counselor in Texas. And they live in Lilydale, Texas, and Florida. And we're going to be relying on some of their expertise in the area. And what I want to say, first of all, is that we have voices rising from all directions, from both sides of the political aisle. And it's easy for fear to grip us, I think, if we listen to it. And we can feel powerless, anxious, and disconnected. But keeping in mind, now this is very important, this is not a political show. This is not time for you to honestly talk about what is going on in the world and the global unrest that is affecting you. We're talking about solutions to calm yourself down and recapture what helps you to stay grounded. But we also recognize that uncertainty affects us deeply, and what we can do to maintain balance, peace, clarity, and joy, like my guest, we can harness joy in difficult times too. And with all that being said, I want to introduce my guest, and I'm sure people are already recognizing her face. This is Theressa Johnson, medium and spiritual astrologer in Western New York and beyond. And she's just a joyful person. And her Facebook page, when I was going through my notes tonight, Theresa, I got to say it with our tea time. I got my cup for my tea time. I got to say, when I got to the joy part, I said, this is perfect because Theresa is so joyful all the time. And people just love her because she's so joyful. She's known for that. And her Facebook page, which she can tell you about herself, she is dedicated to humor, which is a way to create balance again.
Absolutely.
But this is Theressa Johnson from Western New York Medium, who's been around for decades. Not to say she's old, she's just wise.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I've been on Facebook since 2007, and I am a spiritual astrologer. So I really would like people to know what's coming up, the full moon, the new moon,
Go ahead. Good. Yeah, go ahead.
And I just posted something today about welcome to Cancer season. We were in the Gemini season, and Gemini was fun. We started going into Cancer season, which is way more sensitive and sometimes a little oversensitive.
Oh, okay.
So in order to get people to read my spiritual astrology stuff, I started posting jokes in 2020 because we were on lockdown and we weren't able to communicate in person the way that we normally would do. And I really was hoping that if people read my Facebook page, that it would make them feel better,
It does. I laugh.
I have strangers thanking me on Messenger for some of the stuff that I post,
It's great.
And I think, read me in the morning, because I will post something that will make your day go better. And sometimes people share me, and I don't care how much you share me. I want to be read just as much as I can, because something I say, something I do will make you laugh.
Well, and that's important what you say about, read it in the morning, because research has shown that in the first 30 minutes of waking up that you don't want to get on your phone and listen to all this global unrest. You want
Exactly.
you want to do what grounds you. And one of the things that you can do is laugh.
Yeah. So say that you wake up at 9 o'clock in the morning and you spend just 30 minutes reading what I post, because I'll do the forecast. I'll do the astrological forecast so you can see how your day is going. But while I'm at it, I'm just hoping that I can make you laugh, because if you can start your day laughing, they can't possibly go bad. Wake up those pheromones. Get happy,
Right. But you had something you wanted to read. You want to read it?
I do. This is a note to self, and I saw it on Facebook a couple of years ago. And sometimes people think, well, what am I doing here? What's my purpose? How do I make people feel better? So this is a note to self. Happiness is letting go of what you assume your life is supposed to be like right now, and sincerely appreciating it. So for everything that it is. So relax. You are enough. You have enough. You do enough. Breathe deep, let go, and just live right now in this moment.
Right. And that's another thing that the research points to, But for the people that are getting upset, I want to acknowledge that you and I both understand why they're getting upset.
Absolutely.
Because current events can trigger deep emotional reactions, and how we can manage them and even confront them and learn to release these emotions, that's what's going to keep us balanced.
You know what I found is that if people do not watch the news, they get guilty.
Really?
But because they have to stay up on current events.
Right.
But why would you stay up on current events if it sends you into a depression or if it sends you into anxiety?
This is just sound advice.
And here we go. I may watch the news depending on the kind of day I'm having, or I may not. I can't really change things if I don't watch the news, so I'm not going to feel guilty about it if I'm not up on current events that day. I stay away from scary movies. I stay away from sad movies. I love rom-coms, and I love comedy, and I love adventure. So even with the stuff that I watch on television, I don't watch sad movies if I'm having a bad day. I prefer to raise my energy with laughter. And, I love romantic comedies,
I do too.
Yes, I am a diehard romantic, understand? Mm-hmm. So I look at it as I'm going to set my day and end my day with, I always say a prayer at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. I always thank God for my blessings. Mm-hmm. And I always do the serenity prayer, which is, please grant me the serenity to accept what I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can change, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Right, and that's a 12-step principle, and that's what we're going to be talking about tonight, folks. Stay tuned, because we're going to talk about Buddhism, we're going to talk about 12-step principles, we're going to talk about other cutting-edge research on the burden to help reclaim our peace, power, and joy. Yeah. And, the research also shows that what Theresa's saying is, and this is cutting-edge research, shows that if we end the 30 minutes before we're going to go to sleep, put the phone down, not only because of the blue light, but because our phones bombard us with news.
Absolutely.
And it never used to be that way. But they say for the 30 minutes before you go to bed, do something that brings you peace. Mm-hmm. Meditate, pray, whatever.
Snuggle your pet.
Snuggle your pet. That is another known strategy.
Yep.
To divert yourself when you're feeling ungrounded.
Yeah.
And feeling stressed. And stay in your body, and that's what your pet needs you to do, especially if you've had trauma or whatever. Mm-hmm. That'll help you stay in your body and stay in the present moment and help you to relieve yourself from all this turbulence that's going on on a global level. It's not just America,
Therapy dogs, they calm you. They lower your blood pressure.
They don't make you, and they help you not to feel isolated.
Absolutely. And I've never understood the concept because I don't own fish. But from what I understand, looking at a fish tank and how they interact, it calms your blood pressure.
Yeah. Because watch it go back and forth, back and forth. You're using your body, you're using your sight, and you're integrating. What's interesting with watching a fish tank go back and forth, you're integrating the left part of your brain and the right part of your brain. And when you integrate the left part of your brain and your right part of your brain together, you immediately feel balanced and calm.
And focused.
And years ago, I was at the Mikowski School, and I was teaching children how to do that. And I'm going to do a figure 8 across your body. Mm-hmm. And do that with both arms across your body, one at a time. And you can integrate and calm yourself down. That's another tip. Yeah, but watching a fish tank is a real good one. I never would have thought of that.
Me neither, but whenever I go to a doctor's office, there's a fish tank there.
That's why. Right. So whether you feel helpless or lost or whatever, stay tuned, because this podcast is going to help you navigate through it. And we've already jumped into deep researched, strategies and tips to help people come through turbulent times. Really, right. But it's important, don't you think, that people need to make this a focus, like you said in your poem that you read, finding your purpose. That's something to focus on rather than the outside noise that's going on in the world. To focus on why you're here.
Right.
Why you're here. Make that your priority. That's something that you can control. You can move your action steps towards your goal and towards your purpose, because basically we can't solve a lot of things that we worry about.
That's exactly right.
Wouldn't you agree? But we can reclaim our joy, get our serenity and our calm, and we know we need to remain calm, but sometimes it's a little bit harder to do than we imagine. But if we stick to our purpose, watch a fish tank,
Yeah.
right? Right.
You know what
How to-
helps me too? And it might be a little bit of some school training that I had. I always went to Catholic school.
Oh, did you? Good.
I still hold the door for people. And while I'm holding the door for people, and I do it for men as well as women,
I do too.
because
I do too.
have that training, and as old as I am, I can't lose that training.
Right.
So I and I did that today. I was going to FedEx to drop off a package, and this woman had about 12 boxes, and she was struggling. I said, wait a minute, let me get that for you. It was just a little thing, but she went, oh, thank God, thank you. You
Right.
know?
She was probably getting stressed out
Yeah.
trying to figure out how she could open up the door.
Yeah.
And that's something that we can control. We feel good when we give the good juju away. Brain scans have shown that when we engage in behavior like that, where we're helping other people, it helps it helps us first when we expend love into the world. And we get the good juju first before we hand it out to other people. So you got some good juju,
Yeah.
and so did that woman, because I'm sure you smiled at her and spread some more joy like
She
you do.
smiled
Theresa.
right back, and she was so relieved, you know. And I'll tell you, when I do a meditation, the first thing I do is ask everybody to close their eyes and take a deep breath, and then I ask them to think of someone who needs a blessing or several people who needs a blessing, and to send that blessing out. Because when you do that, it comes back times 3, which is a power number. So when I do meditation, people feel so much better because they sent something good to someone else.
Right, and they got the good juju first.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. And these are all Buddhist, these are Buddhist principles.
Right.
These are Hindu principles. These are spiritual principles that you're teaching the world, that we're talking about. And they're simple, and it sounds simple, but the reward is great.
It does. It is. You know, sometimes you just smile at someone, and you make their day. You know, and it's, you feel better because you held the door, you smiled at someone. I always compliment people, and it's a sincere compliment. You know, it's a sincere compliment.
Right. It's not phony. It's
no,
not
no,
phony.
not at all. I love people's jewelry. I love their shoes, you know. So I find something to compliment people about, and I know it makes their day better because I can feel their energy rise.
Right. And sometimes, because of our past experiences that weren't so pleasant, sometimes we can tell our mind can tell the body that we need to relax, but we're not relaxing.
Exactly.
You know, because we're unconsciously triggering something that happened in our past. Like you unconsciously trigger a good memory, we also unconsciously trigger negative memories. And, and I'm sure you've heard of, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Well, that's something that the amygdala does naturally to keep us alive. But too good of anything is not good for us.
Right.
So we tend to go to the negative, but in times like this, our bodies are not made to live in the world that we live in. This constant bombardment of the news. Years ago, I don't know about you, Theresa, but I'm, 68 years old. And when I was a little girl, the news only came on 3 times a day.
That's right.
It came on at 8 o'clock in the morning or whatever, came on at dinner time, and then it came on at 11 o'clock with Irv Weinstein saying, it's 11 o'clock, do you know where your children are?
On a black and white television
Right.
that had some snow on it, you know?
Right. So it was an easier time for people to receive the news.
It was.
And so there was a space in between where people were tending to other activities.
Right.
But now we're being bombarded.
Everywhere.
And data is the new oil.
Right.
That's what therapists are talking about in the mental health field. Oh, thank you, Lori. Lori says that we're very informative. Thank you. She's a good friend.
Oh, I know Lori, actually.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well, she's saying we're very informative.
Thank you.
So we're being bombarded all the time, and research has shown that people are spending more times on their phones, and people that spend a lot of time on their phones are exhibiting more stressful behaviors than people that aren't.
Because it's a learned behavior.
Right.
And on top of that, it's probably an unconscious learned behavior. I noticed that some people have to scroll through Facebook even while they're eating. You know?
Or they're out to dinner with somebody.
Yeah.
Right. Did you see that?
I'm a people watcher.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I'll see people, and, they're just scrolling. I don't even think they're reading. They're just scrolling. And it doesn't matter if it's Facebook, Twitter, it doesn't matter. They just have to scroll.
And they're getting the bombardment of news, what's happening in the world that's unrest of what's happening.
Yeah.
And it's upsetting them. And they're having physical reactions.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden, they're screaming at the clerk in Target. And then they go home at night and they're like going, why did I do that?
Right.
And then they feel bad because they did that, or they're still in their unconscious and they do something else that's going to adversely affect them, and it becomes a vicious cycle.
And they can't get out of it because they don't even recognize what they're doing.
Right. Right. Until it's too late.
Right.
Until they're getting divorced or something, But you brought up a very good point about turning the news off. What we choose to digest and watch, and not watching the news or innocuous TV shows may help, but also turning off social media helps. But what works a lot for a lot of people that helps them navigate through these times is exercise. And we've known that for years with the presidency of John F. Kennedy, where all of a sudden we were doing, I don't know if you remember in school, in gym going, give the chicken fat
I remember.
back to the chicken.
I remember.
Because he had that physical exercise
Oh, yeah.
program. I mean, that believe it or not, that was from the president.
Oh, yeah.
Which I just learned recently that was from, a presidential administration, that whole song and everything else that was going through the schools. But regular exercise not only helps us with the good juju in our brain and helps our body and helps us to fight off stress, it also helps us with actual human connection, because we need human connection. Sometimes when the world gets so unrestful, we tend to isolate. But we need human connection. We need something other than social media and our phones. And sometimes we isolate because we don't want to hear the other side. And I don't blame people for that. That's a normal reaction. But if you're doing an activity like, let's say, pickleball, that's the latest craze, pickleball, which I'll probably never play. But when we're playing the sport, we're not discussing the social unrest, the noise of the world.
Exactly.
We're being with people and we're focusing on the sport and we're getting the human interaction that our spirits and bodies crave, You know
what I do? And let me ask you before I tell you what I do. What is your favorite decade of music?
Les McCann.
Okay.
When I was a little girl, and I'm 68, so that's a long time ago, and it was jazz.
Okay.
So we're talking about 60s.
Yeah.
60s jazz, yeah.
Mine is Motown oldies.
Oh, I like those too.
I am the youngest of 7, and there was always music in our house because it was a long time before we got
lifts the
a
energy.
TV.
That lifts the energy, you're right.
I have Alexa in both of my bedrooms, in the bathroom. I have Alexa in my living room and in my kitchen.
That's why she's joyful.
That's it. I turn on the Supremes, the Temptations, the Four Tops. So everywhere I go in the house, I have music that reminds me of some really good times in the 70s.
Oh, there you go.
And it makes me feel good, you know?
Look, her face just beams with joy.
Yeah.
This is just practical tips that anybody can incorporate. Now, my friend Lisa has Alexa, and you just clap or you just go, tell people how to use Alexa.
Well, for me, I downloaded a lot of music on Amazon because I have a playlist. So I downloaded music from the 60s, the 70s, some of the 80s. And because I'm the 7th child, I didn't get a lot of radio time. It was mostly my older siblings,
Yeah.
And then it was my parents. So I got big band, and I'm eclectic. I like big band music. I like music from the 40s and 50s, but then I switched into 60s and 70s because as my siblings left, I got the radio.
Okay.
Understand?
I remember the radio, yeah.
So all I'll do is download a playlist of the 60s or the 70s or the 80s, and then all I have to do is say, Alexa, play my Motown music from the 70s, and you can hear it all through the house.
Yeah, that's what my girlfriend Lisa has, Alexa, and that's
Yeah.
what she does. But she brings the receptor, whatever, with her, like out on the deck.
Oh, yeah, the Echo Dot.
Yeah. Oh, is that what you call it?
Yeah.
And she'll say Alexa, blah blah blah. So that's what she's doing. She's already downloaded the music.
And she's just streaming it on the patio, but then you can also stream it in your car as well.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't listen to the radio. I listen to what I want to listen to, which is Motown music.
Beautiful. Now I have downloaded on my phone. I have Apple Music.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I play that. I
Yeah.
play that, and because I have hearing aids, I'm so old. So I have hearing aids. I have hearing aids now. I'm so happy I have them now. It'll go right into my ears.
Yeah.
So I'm like in another world. It's like wearing a headset, but I have my hearing aids.
That's just it, though.
So if you play your music, people, this is important. You can uplift yourself when you find yourself watching too much news. Even if you don't have a physical reaction, it is going to affect you some way. It's going to show up in disturbed sleep. It's going to show up with snarling at people. It's going to show up. So when you find yourself, maybe a good idea is like you watch the news because you want to know current events or whatever, but play your music afterwards.
And if you
right?
miss a day with not watching the news, don't feel guilty. It'll be there the next day.
Right.
You
Well,
know?
that's what I do. I don't even bother half the time because I find it so disturbing.
I know.
I find it so disturbing. But finding ways to connect with others, and music is one of the ways you can connect with others.
Absolutely.
You can go to a concert. I'm going to a concert at our park tomorrow night. So you can go to a concert with people. You can do activities where you don't have to engage in dialogue and you don't isolate yourself, because
Right.
a lot of people are isolating themselves because they don't want to hear other forms of opinion because it's too upsetting. We're
Right.
back to too upsetting. So, but it's important that we have the human connection.
Yes.
It's not good to isolate. We're not meant to be hermits like my hermit crab. By the way, I was telling Lori today, I wonder if she's still watching. I was telling Lori today on the phone, I bought a new hermit crab because I had a fire. I had a fire in my house, and my hermit crab succumbed to the smoke damage, and that was trauma-inducing. Just so you know. So the hermit crab passed away. So I bought a new hermit crab when they were after they were done getting the smoke damage out of my house.
Yeah.
And my friend and I were worried that the hermit crab was dead because it wasn't coming up.
Oh.
Because they bury into the sand or the coconut, whatever that you have.
Right.
Well, today he came out, so he's alive.
Well, thank God.
But we don't want to live like hermit crabs.
No.
We are social beings, and
Yeah.
we're not meant to be. But it's important to engage with other people. So, but we don't want to. We want to make sure, like, if we get into a conversation of world affairs or the noise, I like to call it the noise of the outside world, that we do it with people that we can have intellectual conversations with.
Exactly.
Intellectual battles, there's no new learning, there's no new insights, there's no growth, there's no human growth. All
Right.
we're doing is just getting ourselves upset. So don't take the bait, folks. That's what I like to say.
Yeah, don't take the bait.
So if we pace ourselves with the news, if we find ourselves getting upset, turn it off, or just do what I do. Don't even bother watching it.
That's what the power button is for. Turn it off,
But it's important that that we also get so into, and this takes place over time, that we get so in tune with our bodies, because our bodies will tell us when we're stressed.
Oh, definitely.
But that's something that you have to learn over time. It's not something that you learn overnight. But when you do get upset, if you can see and just take a minute to try to concentrate, don't you agree, on where you're feeling it in your body. Some people might be their stomach, might be the back of their neck. You know, everybody hears the saying, oh, he or she's a pain in the neck. Well, that's because when you get stressed, some people get a pain in the neck.
That would be me. That's what those little yellow pillows are for, the U-shaped pillows.
Uh-huh.
That's what it is.
Yeah. But I also want to talk about that. I want to talk more about the fight, freeze, flight, or fawn syndrome, because I want to talk about how important that is that we have that.
Right.
So so people recognize that our amygdala, which is part of our brain, its job is to protect us. So we will normally and instinctively always go to the negative. So if we recognize that about ourselves, so when we're watching the news and we hear something that we know is upsetting, know that your body's going to react to that, because it's going to be stored in our brains from the amygdala. And that's what happens to us. And it's normal. It's a normal function. And so when we're watching the news, we can say, well, that looks like it's out of line, right? That looks upsetting. We can see things that are upsetting. And I think it's important, too, that when we watch the news, we're going to have more of an adverse effect if we watch the news rather than read it. Now, we all know that we can read things that are upsetting, and we have a lesser reaction than if we watch it. Our visual eyesight makes a stronger reaction.
Because watching is easier. If you're watching it, you don't have to think. You're seeing it.
Right.
If you're reading it, you have to digest it. You have to comprehend it. And I think maybe it even stays in your mind longer if you read it, because you're kind of memorizing it in a way.
Right.
So yeah, watching it could be worse.
Right. And so maybe if you want to learn about current events, maybe it would help you to read it. However, the other thing I want to point out, and this is not open for commentary, is that sensationalism is the norm. Yeah. So we get headlines, and then we get articles underneath the headlines that have nothing to do with the headline.
That's exactly it.
So we can read headlines and get ourselves all upset, but if we bother to read the article, we're not going to get upset because the articles don't match the headline. Now, years ago, it wasn't that way. I mean, we had Walter Cronkite. How did we say that? Walter Cronkite? Cronkite, yeah. It was my speech impediment.
Because we're old enough to remember Walter Cronkite. You just aged yourself there, and me too.
Right. Where the headlines match the article. But now we have to research everything. So it's important for us not to believe everything we read or believe everything that we see in a newscast, or because we have news commentaries now that are the norm. And it's on both sides of the fence.
Right.
And even the middle ground too. It's so it's important that before we react, as you say, digest, but it's also to research these headlines, these articles, these news stations that we're finding ourselves in.
Actually, read it with a grain of salt.
That's a good one. Again, you're full of common sense. That's why you're allowed to be so joyful. I certainly didn't I pick the right person for this? It's just common sense.
Yeah, it really is,
It's just common sense. And meditating and breathing is so important. I like to say that our breath is our instrument. And prayer is so important that, And when you were talking about going to bed and saying things to yourself that, are soothing is so important. It's like, let's say you have a grandchild in front of you or a child. Are you going to read them a story about Dracula sucking the blood out of your neck?
No.
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 You're going to read them, hopefully, something that's a little bit more uplifting.
And joyful.
And joyful, right.
Yeah.
There we are, back to joyful. And something joyful. And we're going to tell them sweet dreams. And that's because it has been researched that the last thing we tell ourselves in our brain before we go to sleep goes into our unconscious, and our unconscious, as we know, dictates our behavior. So when we don't tell ourselves sweet dreams before we go to sleep, we may exhibit negative behavior and contribute to the negativity in the world and make things more socially unrest.
It stays in the
unrestful.
left side of our brain.
Right. But we go on alert with the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And as I said, that keeps us alive, but it also can work to our detriment. And with this bombardment of news 24/7 a day, like you can wake up in the middle of the night and you can go on your phone, you can go to your computer.
And it's there.
You can turn on your TV. When I was a young girl, the TV didn't have any airwaves after 12 o'clock at night.
That's right.
The world went to sleep.
It played the national anthem and it said goodnight to us, and that was it.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And then it didn't come back on until 6 or 7.
Right, if that.
Yeah. And there were no computers. There were
Right.
no cell phones. So the news was not readily available the way it is now.
We're being bombarded. And if we remember, data is the new oil.
Right.
And mental health therapists are educating themselves to that right now in our contemporary society. And so now news is like all day long. And
Right.
that's why I'm saying the word is bombardment. And so we have to find out what is true and then react.
I agree.
And how do we react? Now, I'm just going to throw some statistics out there that I wrote down today, which I found very interesting. In 2015, 62% of the American public followed ABC News. That was 62% in 2015. That has decreased down to 50% now because they found them unreliable.
Wow.
Now, this is what I found disturbing. 31% of the American population finds their news exclusively from Facebook.
Oh, that's not good. That's not good.
I found that so disturbing. I was like, oh no!
Because that's not fact checking.
Right,
You know?
right.
You read it on Facebook. Okay.
Right, and what a difference from when we grew up. So we had a more peaceful world. We had a more peaceful world when you and I were growing up. We had the 60s, but part of the civil rights movement was when Martin Luther King took those young children with their parental consent and marched them in Alabama, and then they were hosed down by that crazy sheriff, and that came in American living rooms.
Right.
And that was the real birth of the civil rights movement, because people were so upset. And so now what's happening now in our times is that we're having children hosed down every day.
Right.
And it's too
24/7.
much. Right, and it's too much. So what's happening on Facebook? Now help me with this word. Algorithm.
Algorithm, that's it.
Okay, so now
That's it.
Thank you. So now we have algorithms that are designed. They're specifically designed to inflame you. And the reason why I say that they're designed to inflame you, so like, if I put on my page, my Facebook page, Love, Peace, and Happiness, which I try to do, and you do humor, we're going to get more of that coming across our feed. So if you put the negative on what's happening in the world, you're going to get more of the negative across your feed, and what is your political slant and what's going to upset you. So 31% of our population that gets their news from Facebook, they're inflamed.
That's scary.
And they're upsetting themselves.
Right.
And that's why it's important to get this information out, because a lot of people don't realize it. They don't realize what's going on. So you're going to hear, you're going to see and get yourself more upset because you're seeing it.
Right.
And of the things that upset you rather than what brings you peace. And if you don't believe me, start putting things on your feed, things you don't believe in.
Right.
And you're going to start seeing things of what you don't believe. So I'm not trying to demonize social media, because I think it's a powerful tool in a lot of ways for our society, but these algorithms can really harm people.
That's exactly right. Especially if you believe what you've read on Facebook.
Right. And it's putting people in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response, and they're getting more upset, and they're more apt to respond in a more aggressive way. And this is why, how many times do we go into Target, or I shouldn't say Target, let's say Walmart or Macy's or whatever, and we see people being rude to cashiers?
I know.
It's because they're so upset.
I know. I know.
You know, and we have people that don't want to be cashiers anymore or Home Depot. I've been in Home Depot, and I've witnessed people like going berserk on these cashiers, and I just want to say, breathe. But then they'd look at me like I was like, then scream at me.
They demonize you.
They demonize me. So it's like, or go, peace out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you can see that what I'm saying is true if you just try my little thing where you put something on and you don't believe it, and then you're getting more of that what you don't believe.
But then switch your algorithm back and get rid of the stuff.
Right. Go back to Theresa's page.
Yeah.
Yeah. And get humor, or go to mine and get peace, love, and happiness.
Yes.
And ways how to improve yourself. Self-growth. Oh, I'm telling you. But other things that you can do is to decide what you can do and what you can't do. Because a lot of people feel powerless because they get themselves caught up into this turmoil of, you're getting your news from the social media, but you're going to social media to get away from it, and you're getting yourself caught up in this cycle like a hamster and going through the wheel.
Yeah.
So you can feel powerless. Like, it's important to choose what you can handle and what you can't handle, and it's important to make the decision on what you can control and not control, but you can feel powerless, and we can understand how people feel powerless in our society, but it's important for us to take control of our lives back. So maybe it's important to make a list of what I can control and what I can't control. And
That's
then,
the serenity prayer.
Right, exactly, exactly. Back to that again.
Yeah.
And make a distinct list on what I can control and what I can't control. Maybe what you can control is journaling about what you're feeling for like 90 seconds, or breathing, or writing a letter to your congressman, or something like that, or or calling your children and alerting them to the truth of what you found out.
Yeah.
Of your research, and to empower yourself rather than help yourself to feel powerless.
That you're talking about self-awareness.
Right, self-awareness.
Okay, and that's the biggest thing, I think, with anxiety. It's the biggest thing with some of the other personality disorders. It's self-awareness of how you're reacting to things.
Right. I'm told that I practice self-awareness all day long, and I do, and I'm told that I'm more self-aware than other people. But I've learned to be that way,
Right.
It's 68 years. So I can understand why a 22-year-old doesn't have all this self-awareness, because a 22-year-old's probably going to school, going to work,
They
going
haven't
here.
lived yet.
Yeah, and they're doing all these things to live their life, or they're
Right.
raising children or whatever, and they haven't taken the time that I've had to be self-aware.
I really do believe that with age comes wisdom. I really do believe that.
I think so too. And it's important too that not only that we find ourselves with people that think like us, because that's important too, to have a sense of feeling of belonging. To
Find your tribe.
Right, because you and I both are mediums, so it's cool that we can sit here and talk about
Yep.
this. Being mediums, we find people that are in our collective, in our small collective,
Who think
but
the same way.
who think the same way. So it's important for us to find people that think like we do. Yes, that will empower you, but it's also important to get that human connection with people that don't think like us, being maybe focusing on an activity. Like a sport or something that's going to move you forward in life and not hinder you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Do you know even bingo works?
That's a good one.
It is, because
And
you're
they
with a
don't
group
even
of
allow
people have
smoking,
fun.
and they don't allow smoking in bingo anymore.
Right.
Right. You're with people that are focusing on having fun and maybe winning money.
Yeah.
I'm going to the casino next Monday with some friends, and
Yeah.
and we're going to eat and we're going to gamble and we're just going to have a good time.
And that's what it's all about. You won't be thinking about anything other than where you are in the moment. You're living in the moment.
Right.
And that's it.
You're being present. And, this weekend I was with a program out in Fredonia. It's called the Range Ranch, and it's called Ranching for Veterans. And they were bringing us back to the present, and we were with these horses, and it was a great activities, and it was really good for me to be around people that were looking to help themselves
Yeah.
in ways with animals and whatever, and being around people focused on the same goal. You know what I'm saying? And
You know
so-
what's funny? When you help an animal as well, you help yourself.
Right.
When you put something good into an animal's life, the animal gives back. So it's empathy.
Right. And and we don't. My spiritual belief is that we all came here by choice. And all for a reason. And that's why it's so important to bring us back. We got 14 minutes left to you reciting that poem about finding your purpose.
Right.
And what might help people is if you say to yourself during the day, my action steps, is the action I'm taking today helping me to fulfill my goals and my purpose? Am I moving closer to it by being in the activity I'm being in today?
Also, the self-awareness that you don't have to save 1 million lives. All you have to do
That's so true.
is help one person. And
It's
then
true.
you pat yourself on the back and you say, yeah, I did good.
Right. And
You
that's
know?
and that's how you're going to change the world.
That's exactly it.
Change yourself, change the world. And that's going to put the good juju out in the world, and it's going to help make somebody else feel uplifted. It's going to help you feel uplifted.
Right.
And that's how you change the world.
Patting yourself on the back is important. People don't pat themselves on the back for the little things. They need to do something big. And they don't realize that the collective is what changes the world one little step at a time. They don't realize that.
No, they don't. Because they're stuck up in these cycles.
Yeah.
These cycles. I mean, I believe that we came here for a reason, and one of those reasons is to overcome and work with our minds, is to work towards improving ourselves and helping the collective by helping ourselves. And, we can learn from near-death experiences.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that a little bit before we close, because people that have actually supposedly died, which I don't believe is possible, I think we just go from one consciousness to another, which is proved in our mediumship. We prove all the time that life goes on. That
There is no death.
That there is no death. But people that have crossed over and come back, it takes them between 5 to 7 years to really integrate back into this world into a balanced way because they're angry. They're actually pissed that they came back because
I've heard that.
Yeah,
I've actually heard that.
that's what the research shows because they
Yeah.
go over and they realize, and it sounds simple, it sounds really simple that, oh, well, all there is love, like the Beatles saying, but that's the truth of the situation.
I know. It's such a peaceful mindset. And, you know, they don't want to have to come back, but there's a purpose. There's a purpose in coming back, which is why you don't stay on the other side. It's not your time to go.
Right, it's not your time to go. You have more to learn from, and so you come back, and hopefully you talk about your near-death experience and help to change the consciousness of the collective, and to realize that it sounds simple. And the Dalai Lama says, why choose to suffer? I mean, pain. The Buddhists believe that pain is inevitable, but suffering is an option. And it's true. And it's very true. Love is the only thing that's real. I mean, think about it. It's the only thing that transcends time and dimension.
Yes.
Right?
That's exactly it.
I mean, we all know people like my mother. I loved her dearly, okay? She passed on. I still love her.
Right. Love doesn't die.
Right. So it's the only thing that's real in my words. It's the only thing that's real. And so we have proven this time and time again, but people get so caught up in the here and now, what's happening in this world, that they forget that it's the simple things that can bring us home and can bring us to peace, calm, serenity, and joy. We can actually experience joy in these turbulent times. Look at Theressa.
Listening to my Motown 70s music and dancing.
And dancing. I remember during the pandemic, my friend Alicia Grantos, who's one of my mentors, she was putting on Facebook, I was putting on Facebook all these meditations to calm people down. I had people from all over the world chiming into my meditations. I was doing them every day. She was doing dancing.
Right.
She was doing dancing to help uplift people. I was trying to calm them down. You were showing jokes, trying to uplift, doing all these things. But that's what we do.
It's called light workers.
Right. That's what we do. We are leaders in the world to a better place.
Yeah.
And we chose to come here during this time. And I think the more people that realize that they chose to come here during this time, and if they tend to think about what their purpose is, it's good to have goals. What is your purpose? And your purpose can change from day to day. Your purpose might be opening up the door for somebody, and then later on in the day, your purpose might be making dinner for your family or for your boyfriend or for your child or your grandchild. But we all have goals, and the more goals we have, and maybe your goal for the day is washing the dishes, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. But it's okay to have, our teachers call them mental health days.
Absolutely, yes.
When they stay home. It's okay to have days where we just do nothing.
And I'm good at that. I'm good at that when I need to be.
Right, right. And recognizing that it's important to do that.
Yeah.
It's important to do that. And so it's important to seek activities and strategies that help ground us and keep us present.
Without guilt. Because some people
feel guilty
when they relax. They do. They feel like they always have to be doing something, So sometimes, no guilt, just relax.
Right. Watch a comedy.
Yeah.
Or silly cat videos. I know somebody who's a mental health therapist watches silly cat videos when it gets to be too much. When he watches something on the news that's upsetting, he'll turn it to silly cat videos to make himself laugh again.
And there you go.
And find something joyful to do that will lift your energy, so to speak. And some people use crystals to lift their energy. There's all kinds of crystals that you can use when you meditate. Or Inside Timer offers a lot of meditations that are guided that can help people who aren't used to meditating to help them to learn how to meditate, because the mind will think and the body will feel. So we don't empty our brains when we meditate. we train our brains and we observe. So it's important to observe what's going on in the world, but not let it soak in and destroy us. Don't you agree?
Can we talk about meditation for a minute?
Go right ahead. I think it's good. I think it's important.
Well, I've ran meditation classes, and
So
some
have I,
people said it's very uncomfortable to sit in a yoga position and shout Om. They can't do it, you know?
Right.
So I teach that for those who can meditate that way, do.
Right.
If you're visual, if you need music, enjoy. But sometimes what I enjoy doing and what puts me into a meditative, relaxed phase is just to clean. Honestly, it makes me feel good to have everything shiny and sparkly, and then I listen to music while I'm vacuuming.
And walking meditation.
That's it, and it puts me into a relaxed mood just to mop and to vacuum and to clean because it makes me feel better.
And it's something your body can do,
Yep.
and your mind doesn't have to necessarily go, well, now I'm going to dust this for 5 minutes. You just keep doing
Exactly.
it. And you're allowed to step back from your world with compassion and love for yourself, and you feel better because you actually cleaned.
And it's just as good as sitting in a yoga position and murmuring Om. It's just
Right.
as good.
Right. And some of these techniques take time with practice, but that's okay. But it's important to observe ourselves with compassion. Like when we go off on the clerk in Target, and when we think about it later, have compassion for yourself.
Right.
And try to recognize why you did that, what happened, what led up to that. But do it with compassion. Love yourself,
Yeah,
because-
see your triggers.
Yeah, because sometimes I think we can be too hard on ourselves.
That's the guilt factor again.
Right.
I did something I shouldn't have done. I got triggered. I went off just like that, and then I have to deal with the guilt.
Right. But do it with compassion.
Yep, it's important to forgive yourself when you've had one of those experiences.
It is
know?
important to forgive yourself because we're all human. And what's the saying? We're imperfectly perfect.
Yeah.
But how can people find you? We only got 4 minutes left. We can go on for like days about this, which is good because the world needs it. So how can people find you, Theressa?
I have two ways. I have a blog. It's www.theresajohnson.com, where you have to spell my name with those 2 S's that my mother gifted me with 69 years ago. Or the other way is to look on Facebook, and you just look up Theressa Johnson. And you will see me posting about astrological stuff to help you through your day and through your week and through your month. And while I'm doing that, I'm trying to make you laugh.
Right.
It's that simple.
It's that simple, right? And people can find me on Virginia McIntyre. It's on my page, Virginia McIntyre, McIntyre.com. That's where you can find me. You can make appointments with me for spiritual counseling or mediumship, or you can find me on Facebook where this is being live streamed, or you can go to my Reverend Virginia McIntyre page, and that's where you will never find anything political. It's all about self-growth and helping yourself. And I have a private group, Illuminating Forward, ! Where again we are delving into positive things to help people grow. And but VirginiaMcIntyre.com is the best place to find me. So we I hope that we helped some people.
Keep listening.
And had some fun doing it, right, Theressa?
Keep listening. Keep listening. And play some Motown music. Or play the Beatles or the Beach Boys.
The Beatles or the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
Do you remember when the Beach Boys came to, what was that? At a baseball game, the old baseball game, it was packed, and then they did fireworks afterwards.
I don't remember that. I wish I had.
That was decades ago. I just loved it.
That had to be for Independence Day. I bet you it was.
And that's coming up. That's coming up. So keep your animals close during Independence Day for the 4th of July. Keep your animals close.
And veterans, too.
Yeah. Some veterans are triggered by the big booms.
Yeah.
And you'll find a lot of them staying home and not going to the fireworks,
Right.
which is understandable because it can put them in a place that nobody wants to be.
Memories.
Nobody wants to be. But let's see. So remember to take a deep breath and indulge in activities that bring you peace, calm, joy,
And laughter.
and laughter, because that's all going to lift your energy. You're going to feel better.
Yeah.
And when we feel better, we do better, don't we?
Absolutely.
No, we do better. And so how can people make an appointment with you? What's your phone number?
It's 716-481-2799. I'm going to repeat that, 716-481-2799.
All right. Lori says, thank you, ladies. It was very enjoyable, and you can't beat 60s or 70 music. LOL.
Absolutely. Long live the 60s and 70s.
Oh, yeah. So why don't you give me your phone number again?
It's 716-481-2799. You can text me or you can give me a call.
Okay. And where are you going to be in any psychic fairs coming up?
I don't. Oh, yeah. You know what? I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm at Flickr next week, which is a spiritual shop.
In Hamburg.
Yeah, and I'll be doing psychic readings. And then in July, I'm going to be doing past life regression at the hippie shop in Erie, Pennsylvania.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Yeah.
The hippie shop
Yeah.
in Erie, Pennsylvania?
Yep.
Oh, wow. You're just everywhere.
I try. I try.
Okay, good. All right, so we're going to fade to black now, and Richard's back in the room. I'm so happy to see Richard again. So thank you for watching. I hope everybody found this enjoyable and informative, and that it helps a lot of people, because that certainly was our goal. And I think it's going to. I think it's going to, because we're living in times that there's a lot of noise.
Right.
And we just got to navigate our way through the noise, and we're off the air.